Welcome to The Abundance Project, the podcast where together we hack the game of life to manifest more abundance in business, love, money, and freedom. I'm your host, Tess, a six-figure business owner, a fiance, a hot dog mom, and a woman who, just like you, is navigating the journey of compounding abundance every single day. In each episode, we'll dive into practical strategies, inspiring stories, and actionable tips to help you unlock your fullest potential and create a life overflowing with abundance. Whether you're looking to elevate your career, deepen your relationships, achieve financial freedom, or simply find more joy and fulfillment, you're in the right place. So join me on this adventure as we learn, grow, and manifest abundance together. Let's get into the episode. Guys, this episode was not supposed to be this episode, but I feel like these are actually always the best ones. And to be completely transparent and honest with you, like, I'm feeling my heart a little bit. I'm a little bit nervous. Maybe I might even cry. We're getting vulnerable in these, okay? So initially I had intended to record an episode, and I did record an episode on the law of attraction for you, but honestly the audio sounded like shit and my energy just wasn't behind it, and I'm not in the position anymore to be doing things that like actually don't excite me, that I actually wouldn't want to listen to. And so instead, it's Tuesday, this episode comes out on Thursday, I am recording a solo episode which I'm going to entitle Exposing Myself. My current biggest struggle and what I'm doing about that. And I feel like I'm through a pretty processed place in this struggle, and it's one of those things where I'm like, I don't actually know if it's going to get better. I don't know if it's going to get easier. I don't know, but I'm doing my fucking best. And these are the times where, honestly, like, with the most amount of empathy and love, I kind of fucking laugh a little bit when people are like, I can't show up on my Instagram stories. And I'm like, for me, and everybody has different edges and everybody has different challenges. So for the challenge that I'm about to tell you, you might be like, that sounds like my literal heaven. But for me, it's not. And for you, showing up on Instagram might be your biggest challenge, and for me it's not. And so there's no like shame or, hierarchy in any of these things. But I actually look to the external things or the taking the actions or whatever, and I'm like, that shit is easy in comparison to holding the way that I feel right now. And that is that the combination between me really only having one friend up in Queensland, and also Brody now doing FIFO, and the whiplash of him supposed to be doing 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, and then him working an extra week, and then he was supposed to be gone for 3 weeks, and then he was supposed to be home for a weekend, and he only ended up being home for 24 hours, and then this, and it's just honestly the changes and the whiplash. And I'm not gonna lie to you, like, I'm not gonna play victim to it, because even I was walking the dogs and it started raining today, and I actually laughed and I had so much fun. But the overcast weather like really makes me go, oh, I am a sun gal. I love the sunshine. I love to like just be inspired by that weather. And again, I can be inspired by the rain, and we can go internal and we can get honest with ourselves. But I'm fucking struggling with the FIFO life. And what really hit me the other day was I went to a breathwork workshop, and as a part of the start of this workshop, they got us all to go around and give everybody a hug. And I love that. I think that hugs are so beautiful. And whilst I'm like a very touchy person with my closest people, with my family, I would say, I'm not a very touchy person with others. But in a space like that, where it really is like safe and vulnerable, I think it's so beautiful to connect in those ways. But I'm gonna be real with you, like my friends, I hug them when I haven't seen them in a long time, but like when we're not really hugging hello and goodbye all of the time. And so they asked us a question in this workshop after we hugged everyone and we sat down, and they were like, hands up, and it was at 6 p.m. at night. They're like, hands up if this is your first time getting a hug today. And when I put my hand up, I felt my eyes water up because I was like, shit. When Brody's away, I genuinely do not have physical human contact most days. And I really struggle with that. This is why I let the dog sleep in the bed. Because that contact, that touch gives me so much life. It gives me so much energy. And having that realization of like, shit, I really struggle when I don't have that like co-nervous system regulation through touch, or when I don't have that like connection through touch. And connection over Zoom is great, or over a phone call is great. Even I've started watching The Block now so that I can text my mum on the Sunday night reveals whilst the episode is running, and we can have a conversation, and that's so beautiful and I love it. But fuck, I miss that element of like touch, right? And it's made me realize like just the loneliness that comes with living away from most people that you know and love and working online. Like, that to me is a much, much bigger challenge than what should I say in my content, or how can I charge money for this, or whatever it is. And we all have different levels of challenge, and what I want to zoom back on and reflect on, and this is such a random little scenario to give you, but I was actually, every time I drive home, we can't turn right into our street. We have to go up around the roundabout and back. And I was driving that literally this morning, and it was so gloomy and cloudy in front of me. And I did a U-turn at the roundabout to drive back, and it was like blue skies. And I had this moment of like, shit, sometimes you've just got to reflect on like where you've been to see that positive, like gratitude, like knowing kind of vibe, so that you can go back into the storm stronger. Because the storm's going to pass. Like, let's be real. The blue sky is always there. That's fact. The storm just sometimes covers it. It blocks our view. It blinds us. And that's okay. That's a part of life. Seasons, the law of rhythm, everything comes into this. But I kind of wanted to reflect back on this like loneliness feeling, because it's been a long time since I've really had that. I remember when I first moved out of home, and I would go home and visit my family every weekend, literally every weekend. I was 16, and I would pretty much catch the bus or catch a ride with someone home from Sydney to Canberra, so I could spend the weekend with my family, and I would get back on the bus. Like, the feeling that I'm having right now, and what I'm holding in my chest right now, and what I feel most often when I'm going to bed alone when Brody's away, is this feeling of, it reminds me of when I used to get on the bus and I used to leave my family, and I used to feel so alone in that. And I think that from my wider perspective, from my like everything happens for a reason kind of view, I can see that this moment right now in time is preparing me to hold, like they say that it's lonely at the top, and I don't necessarily believe that it has to be. I think that we can find our communities and we can find our homes, but I also feel like sometimes that takes time, and being misunderstood or feeling alone is a part of the journey, and it's never going to stop me from going and doing what I want to do, or achieving what I want to achieve, or putting myself out in a certain way. And it's even like that balance of, people can know you so well on Instagram but still not have that relationship, and it's those relationships that I really do hold so sacred. And I grew up as a kid who would hug my family every night before we went to bed. And now I'm getting into bed and I'm like, oof, there's no one to hug. Just a little bit alone. So it's been reminding me of those times when I was 16 and I was leaving my family and I was going back to chase my dreams. But the duality of that, and I don't love the word sacrifice, because I don't think that this is a sacrifice. Like, yeah, right now I'm sacrificing time with Brody and he's sacrificing time with me in order to get ahead on our goals. But I really don't believe that it's a sacrifice. I believe that it's a choice, but it does not mean that the choice does not come with hardship or with heavy shit, right? Sometimes we still have to hold these parts and move through these parts, and it's a new level, new devil. I experienced it when I was 16. I experienced it with Brody, and I started dating, and he would go out and hang out with the boys, and I would get a little bit of anxious attachment, and I wouldn't have that close group of female friends to really like feel supported by, or really feel, I don't know, whatever by. And I would feel pretty alone when he would go out and hang out with his mates. But of course, I'm not going to stop him from doing that. It's your life. And this is a me thing, not a him thing. But we worked through that, and I worked through that. And I got really good at spending my time alone. And now I'm like dealing with these 2-week periods of him not being home and not being around my family, and not even being a 3-hour drive away from my family. Like, if I want to go see them, it's a fucking 12-hour hike. Like, it's a 12-hour drive, you know? And facing that challenge, like, this is the current season of what I'm going through, and it hits me in random different waves where I just will feel like sad sometimes, or I just will feel like lonely sometimes. And I think we get to fill that cup up. And this is the point of like what I want to share with you is, whatever you're going through right now, you get to cry about it and equally take action on it. I most certainly cry about this shit, and equally I take action. I'm going out for dinner with someone that I went to primary school with tonight. Connection. I call my friends, I call my family. I see my friend that is in Sydney often, and she's got a 3-year-old, and I hug her 3-year-old all the time. Like, I have these things, and it doesn't still negate the feeling that I feel when I go to bed alone. And it's not even like I'm going to bed alone, like we've broken up or something. Like, I still have Brody, and we still call, and we still chat, and we still have our relationship. And yet I still experience all of the things. And I think it's such a analogy for feeling the fear and doing it anyways. And whilst loneliness isn't a fear, or sometimes it kind of is when the fucking lights are off in our 4-bedroom house and there's weird noises. But also it's like, okay, I can hold this heaviness in my heart, and I can still show up to record a podcast, and I can still do what I need to do in my business. And I cannot push myself or distract from my heavy heart in that. I can still give myself space and time and capacity to hold it and move through it, and to transcend it, and to see the beauty in it, and to see the lesson in it. Like, I literally romanticize the absolute shit out of this, because I know that there's going to be a time one day 10 years down the track where I'm like, just leave me alone. I just want time and space by myself. You know, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. Like, there is so much beauty in the times that we're in right now. But equally, I know that the choices that Brody and I are making in our lives at the moment is going to bring us so much gratitude when we have manifested the reality that we are moving towards, that we're calling into our lives. Like, I just know in my heart and soul that these are core memories that I'm going to be looking back on. These are times that I'm going to be so proud of myself for the way that I helped myself through it, for the way that I moved through it. But I'm also going to be really fucking honest and saying, like, this shit is hard. FIFO life is not easy. And again, your hard is different from my hard, and that is so beautiful. But for me right now, this is the biggest challenge that I'm moving through. And whilst I may touch on it on Instagram, I really don't think most people would know how heavy this feels. Like, I'm sure you can actually feel it in my chest right now. Like, most people wouldn't know how much I actually struggle with this. But I wanted to share some humanness, not from a place of like needing pity or support or anything like that, because I have plenty of that. And when I do feel lonely, I text my friends and I let them know, or I text my mum and I let her know, and I get support in that. And it's beautiful. But what I want you as the listener or the watcher, if you are watching this, to get out of this is that no matter what you are moving through right now, there is so much beauty in it. Even if it feels like absolute dog shit, I promise you that there is a reason and an intention and a purpose, and it is expanding your capacity. Like, if I can expand my capacity to hold more loneliness like this, imagine how much more love I can hold on the other side of that. And if that ain't a gift in itself, I don't know what is. And so business is fucking easy. Business challenges, they still get me in tears sometimes, don't get me wrong. I still have my little identity crises, and that's fine, and we move through them. But I really don't think that the challenges of business are anywhere near as hard as I find the challenges of humanness. The challenges of like actually sitting with this feeling and welcoming it in and holding space for it and not distracting from it and flowing the tears and having the realizations and knowing that this too shall pass. And equally, maybe the whole entire time that Brody does FIFO, this shit won't pass. And that's okay. And if it ever gets too much for me to hold, then I have choices that I could make. I'm not a victim to this scenario. But while I'm in it, I'm going to see the beauty in it. And I'm going to see the lessons in it. And I also believe that what your current soul curriculum is, let's call it, what your soul is currently being called to learn or to evolve into, those lessons are going to find their way to you through the path of least resistance. And so even if Brody weren't working FIFO right now, I know that I would be experiencing these lessons in one way or another and asking my heart to expand its capacity to hold this shit so that I can also hold the opposite of that, the beauty in that, in one way or another. So even if we made the choice that we actually can't do this anymore, I would still receive these lessons in another way. I know that. Hands down. This is just currently the path of least resistance for the universe to deliver my soul the curriculum that it came here to learn. And I'm so grateful for my perspective to be able to see that. Sometimes it doesn't make the hurt easier or the heaviness easier. But most of the time it brings that romanticizing perspective to it. It does make it makes it somewhat lighter, more bearable. It has a purpose. It has an intention. And so whatever storm you're currently facing right now, I wonder what it would be like if you could give yourself permission to see it from the universe's perspective of why you're feeling this, why you're going through this, and what the beauty and what the gift in it is. Because I truly, truly, truly believe that every challenge you're going through, there is a gift. And sometimes seeing the gift doesn't mean that the challenge ends like that. That's manipulation. That's you trying to manipulate the experience. If I see the gift in it, it's going to go away. So this is the gift and so it's gone now, please. No. Don't work like that. You can't fool frequency. You genuinely have to experience it, accept it, allow it. And I am surrendering to this. If I'm going to feel loneliness for the next 1-2 years that Brody does FIFO, then so fucking be it. How am I not going to be a victim to that? I'm going to go on friend dates. I'm going to increase my connection more. Touch is important to me. Great. Maybe I'll go and get some massages. Great. Amazing. That's taken care of. how can I also show up in the highest frequency of myself to the other areas of my life? And I think that when we start to come at life from this perspective of full acceptance and embracing, I can even feel the heaviness of my chest get lighter. So whatever you're facing right now, whatever storm is brewing, whatever fucking buckets of rain are coming down on you, and every other area of your life might be so beautiful, and there might just be this one storm. Embrace it. Dance in the rain. Like, get soaking wet and just let it be the scene of a movie that you're like, oh, that looks horrible, but also like so much fun. You know? And with that, I really do hope that you got something out of this episode, out of me exposing myself, out of me sharing with you my greatest challenge right now and what I'm moving through right now. And if you have anything to share, I would love for you to slide into my DMs. I would love to connect with you. But it felt really right to expose myself through an episode rather than to just put out a teaching thing. So I hope you enjoyed, and yeah, I'll see you in the next episode. Bye. Thank you so incredibly much for tuning in to this week's episode of The Abundance Project. It means the world to me to have us create a community of like-minded people who are creating abundance in their own lives. So if you could share this episode with a friend, give us a 5-star rating, tag us when you share on your Instagram stories, it would mean the absolute world to me. Until next week, guys, go and find some magic in the micro moments. Love you.